Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Mr. Stanley Jordan. Stanley, welcome.
Thank
Shake
you,
your
Rick.
hand here.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so I've seen you play in the past. I'm always amazed at how you do what you do. And just when you're warming up here to see it, first of all, I just realized that you tuned in fourths.
Mm-hmm.
When you were developing your two-handed style, talk about the advantages of playing tuned in fourths, meaning your B string is tuned up to C and your E string is tuned up to F. Okay, so that makes everything symmetrical, correct?
Right. This was actually the first way that I ever tuned a guitar, because when I got my first guitar for Christmas at the age of 11, and I had a book, and the book said, tune your low string wherever it sounds good, then you tune the next string from the 5th fret, the next one from the 5th fret. Once I saw the pattern, I just put the book down, I tuned the whole guitar in fourths, and I was like trying to play the song, down in the valley, valley so low. And I was like, what? I'm only 11, this is too much stress, I can't handle this. And I finally figured it out, and I realized that there's that, a 4th fret thing. And I always wondered, well, okay, that's weird, but why is that? Okay, whatever. So I learned, I played for years in standard tuning. And then when I was really starting to get serious about learning jazz, I decided that I would go back to the 4th tuning because it simplifies it. Let me show you. So like, for example, this chord here, it's a G chord. So this is on the lowest pitch 4th string, so it's the same as the normal tuning. You would normally play it like this. But if I want to move it here, same fingering. If I put it here, same fingering. In the standard tuning, I'd have to learn 3 different fingerings.
Right.
The other thing is, let's say I want to do something like in octaves, like so I just, play the same fingering. Like if I want to do something with this hand, it's the same fingering. So it's even easier than on piano, like playing something like octaves. All that kind of stuff, or like parallel stuff, it's easy because the brain uses the same fingering no matter what hand it is. So if I want to pass something off from one hand to another, or whatever, it's the same fingering. And so I don't have to really think about what hand is playing something. Just whatever hand is convenient.
I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. This is actually Rigby 2. I've had it since the beginning of my main channel, and many of you are not subscribed. As a matter of fact, 87% of the people that watch this channel regularly are not subscribed. So I encourage you to hit the subscribe button on this channel and on my main channel. This will help me get even more of my dream guests and help continue to grow both channels. Thank you. I was always amazed when you play those super fast runs. I saw you doing when you're warming up with your right hand. And the angle, it's hard to actually see how you're actually even fretting the things. Are you using your pinky when you do that as well?
Yeah, I definitely use my pinky. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you use all 4 of these fingers on this hand.
And I use the thumb sometimes too.
Okay.
Whatever's convenient. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're playing a scale or something, if you're playing a line, like how do you practice that?
How do I practice that? Well, okay, the way I approach practicing is a big subject. There's a lot of things I do because there's the technical side of just sort of the physical part of playing the instrument and all that. But there's also kind of a deeper inner part that is really important to me. I have to get to that. Otherwise, it's not really musical for me. So one of the things that I do, one of my favorite ways to practice is I'll go onto YouTube and I'll find these massage videos, like let's say, like an hour-long, Swedish massage or something. And I'll watch the whole video and I'll turn off the sound. And I supply the music for the video. And so there's certain things that I would never play, like the thing I just played, that fast thing. I would never do that for a massage. That's not how I warm up. I'm gonna warm up with stuff like this. I'll just go on and on like that. And I might play it for a whole hour for the whole video. And that's a great way to warm up, because instead of challenging myself and clenching up and playing, really complicated, deep stuff, I just play really easy stuff that's so beautiful and it's so warm and so loving, full of heart. And I'll do that for a whole hour. And then I'll gradually build up the speed and the complexity and all that, so that when I'm really ready to play the more complicated stuff, I can do it in a way where my mind is caught up to my fingers. And so it's all musical. It's not just noodling, The other thing is I place a high value on relaxation. My friend Ross taught me progressive relaxation when we were 11. I've done it ever since then.
What is that?
So what you do is you lie down. I have to lie on my back, and I just go through my body and I just relax all my muscles. And it's amazing, because you might think you're relaxed, but you're not nearly as relaxed as you think. Like when you lie down and you check in with your whole body, there's always tension somewhere, because if we were totally relaxed, we'd be dead. I mean, there's always a certain amount of tension there. And like when you're sitting up, there's a certain amount of tension required just to sit up and not fall over, right? Mm-hmm. But whatever's the minimum tension required for what you're doing, just be right there. No more than that. Anything more than that is extra. So I do a lot of things to minimize that tension. So I get totally relaxed before I play. Sometimes it takes as much as half an hour to an hour to get completely
It's like a
relaxed.
meditation that you do?
It's a kind of meditation.
Okay.
It's on a deeper level, we can think of it as purification, because I'm purifying, like when you have an audio channel, you want to maximize the signal to noise ratio, right?
Yeah.
So your nervous system is the same way. The signal is what you want to send to your fingers to make them do the thing. The noise would be the tension that's in there that's not required for what you're playing. So you want to maximize the signal to noise ratio. You want to get that noise floor down, right? And so I go in there totally relaxed. And then if I ever feel a little bit of tension, I notice it right away. Oh, that's weird. I felt tension. So I notice it and I can fix it. Just like when you're practicing, one of the important things to consider is minimizing mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of different kinds of mistakes. It's not just hitting a wrong note. Like if I play something and I have extra tension that's unnecessary, that's a mistake. And I have to correct that. I have to play it again, but relaxed. Or if my mind is wandering and I don't have full mindfulness, that's a mistake. That's an inside mistake. And I have to correct that mistake too. So getting back to the whole thing with the tension, I might take something and just play it over and over again. And it's, let's say if you mentioned meditation, if you're doing a mantra meditation, mm-hmm. What is that? It's repeating a sound over and over again. Well, we musicians already do that. We call it rehearsal, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm really saying is take your rehearsal and approach it with reverence. See, I already made a mistake. I hit two strings at the same time. So let me go back. Okay, there we go. And I feel a little tension up here. So I'm going to clear that out before I play anything else. Otherwise, it's going to linger and it's going to spill over to the next thing, and I might make another mistake. So here we go. So, okay, I played something a little faster there. And so because of that, I'm gonna give that time. I'm not gonna immediately go and do something else because I need time for that to settle in. I kind of tightened up a little bit when I played that, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna relax that away. Breathe it out. Breathing, it's like a bath, like a breath bath. It just clears everything out, right? And so I'm talking about purification. Again, I'm still on that idea of purification because I'm getting rid of any extra tension. Also in my mind, I don't want to have distracting thoughts. And so I want to clear that out. Again, purification. Also emotionally. Like let's say that I've got some emotion that's unrelated to what I'm trying to play. For example, let's say that I had an argument with someone I love and I'm feeling that anger and that frustration, right? I don't want to carry that over into my practice session because that's going to interfere and then I'm not emotionally available to play the song. Now, if the song is a song about frustration with an argument with someone you love, then it's perfect. I'm ready to play the song. But if it's not, then I have a decision to make. I have to either take the time, it's more important to clear that emotion out. I don't want to start playing the song and then expect, just because I'm playing the notes, the emotion is going to come from the notes. No, I'm like an actor. Like Stanislavski, the sense memory actor prepares, all that kind of stuff. I need to feel the emotion first before I play that first note. And so I might imagine like a song, like even as an instrumentalist, even if I play a song but I don't play the lyrics, I have to think about the lyrics. What is this song really about? And once I really feel the feeling and the meaning of the song, then I'm ready to go in and play the song. Otherwise, if I pollute it with other emotions that don't fit, then I don't have that purity like I'm talking about.
We were talking actually, I think it was yesterday, we were talking about your arrangement of Eleanor Rigby. You've been playing that for years. When you initially started to incorporate that into your repertoire, how do you decide what you're going to play with what hand and like what's the process of coming up with an arrangement like that?
Well, one thing is I think about what strings I want to play things on, because one of the nice things about guitar is I've got these strings with different sounds. So each string sounds different.
Totally different.
And so I have to decide like what strings I want to use. If I'm down here, it's more sort of wispy. And so I might combine, or I might want to be up here where it's sort of more tight. So then I come out of that.
Yeah.
I release that. And then I go back to sort of wispy land, you know? So I'm thinking about the timbre of the notes. A lot of times, you know, when we talk about the fingering, the different alternate fingerings, we think about what is going to be most efficient for playing. But I would say, yeah, that's a consideration, but don't forget about the sound, like depending on what strings you play something on, you know? So that's part of how I decide. The other thing is, I think of music on a real sort of elemental level. Like I love theory, I'm very involved in like mapping out musical structures and all that, but I think of it in a really simple way. So for example, if I want to play chord voicing, so there's a lot of different ways of voicing the same chord, right? And what I'm thinking about is real simple. It's like, how is the voicing chunking into parts? So for example, if I want to do something like this, that's two parts. There's a low note here, and then there's this other part here, these three higher notes, right? So there's two different streams. This concept of texture. This is an element of music that doesn't get enough love. People talk about harmony, melody, rhythm. Harmony, melody, rhythm. Yeah, but what about texture? Because texture is something that's just so visceral. It's so right. That's the actual juice of the music itself, of the sound.
Right.
And then the listener hears that. So I've got two textures. So I'm probably going to want to maintain that for a while, you know? Then I might want to go. So now I've gone into another area, but then I might want to go back, right? So I started with that basis of that low and the 3 high, and I kind of ventured from there, and now I come back to that, like home base kind of. For everything in life, for every discipline in life, we have basic questions. So, for example, if you're a composer, a basic question is, how should the song go next, right?
Right.
A good composer is somebody who always seems to have an answer to that question, right? That's a composer.
Right.
And I actually know the answer. I'm just going to say the answer right now. The answer is the song should continue doing what it's been doing unless there's some reason to change. And I love that answer because it's a nice balance between it's general enough so that it applies to pretty much every song in the universe, right? But it's also very useful. It's not so general that you can't use it, So in this case, I've got a certain textural layout that I'm working with. And so I should just kind of keep using that. And then at some point, there's a reason to change. Maybe the reason is because it just feels like I've done that enough and it feels like it's time to move on. Maybe I have a concept and I spin that out. So let's say, for example, now so suppose I do something like this. Okay, so I've taken this pattern. So these are within the scale that we're working it in. All that is within, but I keep that same pattern going. And so that pattern, I follow that pattern and it takes me out. It takes me out of the tonality, but it doesn't sound weird because it was a logical conclusion.
Logical sequence to what you just played. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So I'm going to keep that pattern going. But I don't really want to go there because this is minor and now we have this major minor thing. And so I don't want to take it that far.
Okay.
So the thing is I keep this pattern going until there's a reason to change it now because it's going to take me too far out. So now maybe I'll go.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
So now I've arrived here and I played all this stuff and there was kind of a lot of information there. So I feel like this is a good moment to rest. And, because sometimes we overdo stuff. Like when we are, especially when we're young and we want to learn, we want to explore the musical universe, boldly go where no band has gone before and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes we can overdo it to the point where we're not really aware of how it's hitting us or how it might hit a listener because we're coming from a certain side of our brain. Mm-hmm. And the other side of the brain is like, oh, wait, hold on. It's like one side of the brain is learning all this really cool stuff. And it's it's the left side, right? And the left side is mapping out all the math and all the theory and all the patterns and everything. Whereas the right side is the one that can tell you, is it cool or is it sweet or is it funky or is it edgy or whatever? And if one side gets ahead of the other one, then you're out of balance, right? And when we're young and we're learning all this stuff, we have to make sure that the other side catches up to everything that we do. So like, for example, let's say that I have 10 scales that I want to learn. Realistically, I'm not going to learn 10 new scales and really be able to play them authentically with the right feel and really understand the scale, like getting to know a friend or something, you know. There's this thing like with some of the algorithms on social media, like if there's a negative emotion, the algorithm figures it out right away. But if it's positive, like trust and things like that, it takes more time to build and the algorithm's less able to pick that up. You know, so I'm talking about a relationship, a positive relationship with these different scales, you know, and that takes time to build. And so I don't want to be like that social media algorithm that finds like the edgy, weird tension and says,
Sure.
that's engagement. You know what I mean? It's like, no. I need to just let it build in my heart and in my spirit. And then when I really feel like that scale is my friend, then okay, I got you. You got my back, I got your back, you know what I mean? Okay. So I'm not gonna get that with 10 scales, right? So what I'll do then is I'll use my knowledge of theory to pick maybe, let's say, 3 out of the 10.
Okay.
And then I'll really go deep into those 10. And I'll pick the 3 that best represents the whole 10. So I know I can get to the other 7. If I master those 3, I can get to the other 7 from there. See what I mean? And so that's the idea of I'm not letting my head get ahead of my heart.
When you're playing these things, you're not even thinking about it anymore, are you really?
Well, okay, we do things at a certain level. Like, you know, that thing where in the beginning it's unconscious incompetence. You suck and you don't even know it, right? And then there's a point where you realize, oh, I kind of think I kind of suck, you know, I need work, you know. And so that's conscious incompetence, right? So you work and you work and you work and you get good at it. So now, okay, I'm good at it, I know it, I mastered it, I learned it. So that's conscious competence.
Okay.
And then the final step, we have to make that final step where it gets to unconscious competence. So that you're good and you can do it effortlessly. You know, it's like we have different levels, different layers of our being. And it might be that on a more sort of mental, cognitive level, that's where I'm learning all these structures. And so I have to use that level in order to put the puzzle pieces together. But then once I learn it, I push it down to lower and lower levels of my being so that it becomes more automatic, you know? And so, like, I might do something like this and just keep this going no matter what. Now I want to bring the right hand in, but I'm going to start simple. Okay, maybe just 2 notes. And when I did that, I added the extra note, and this thing got a little bit weak. I noticed it was a little bit unintentionally soft. So that meant that I was getting a little bit ahead of myself. So deep breath, get it back. Okay, so I'm gonna do that same thing again. There we go, nailed it. Okay, what about 3 notes? And also, because I'm pausing, I have time to really think about it and decide. It's like I have a relationship with the music that I'm playing. And so I engage and I play something, and then the music tells me what it wants to do next. So I hear it in my head, because this thing, that thing that I did, I heard it before I did it because I had time. I kept it open, and then I heard in my head that little motif, and then I played it. So I always want to have that relationship, that give and take relationship with the music.
When you're playing lines that are connected with both hands, or playing things that go from one hand to another, how do you decide what hand does what?
So I might be thinking, let's say I'm in E minor, right? And I love E minor 9. And what E minor 9 is, one way to think about it, is that I have an E minor triad, and on top of that, a B minor triad.
Yep.
So now I can say, well, this hand takes the E minor, this hand takes the B minor, and then whatever they do, they're going to stick with that.
Okay.
So I might do. So it's like thinking polytonally.
Yeah.
You know, and so I might go like, okay, so here's the B minor, here's the E minor. Then I might switch that. Now I have the E minor here. So I reverse it now. It's a different feeling.
Wow.
In my harmonic system, which I call the Jordan chromatic system,
Okay.
I use what's called integer pitch class notation. So any note could be 0. So if G is 0, so then the G triad, G major triad would be 0, 4, 7. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 0, 4, 7. The D flat major triad, the D flat would be a 6. That's chromatic. 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Six half
and
steps.
a 10 and a 1. So I'm taking a 0, 4, 7, combining that with a 6, 10, 1, and I get a 0, 1, 4, 6, 7, 10. So so that 0, 1, 4, 6, 7, 10. So now I'm not thinking of it as two different chords anymore. And so what I like about this approach is that it's all encompassing, because any combination of tones I can name using this system. Now, I do want to say that what I'm calling the Jordan chromatic system, not every element of it is unique. Like when I was 15 and I first started going this way, because it occurred to me that we should start from 0. We should go 0 to 11. So we're starting from 0 instead of 1, because we start from 1 when we're counting. We start from 0 when we're measuring. And we're dealing with intervals. We're actually measuring. We're not counting.
Right. Yeah,
so
yeah.
intervals should really start with 0.
Yeah.
Like the ruler. The ruler has an implied 0.
That's right. It
but they
does.
don't put it because it would cut it off, right? But measuring always starts with 0. So we start with 0, and then the other way that it's different is that we're using the chromatic scale as a ruler for measuring intervals instead of using the major scale. And so what happens then is that you never have to worry about sharps or flats or diminished, augmented, major, minor. You don't have to deal with anything like that. All the notes have equal footing. And then you get to decide musically which ones are more important, depending on the context.
If I said, Stanley, play me a song here.
Okay, My One and Only Love.
Great.
Okay.
Beautiful. Wow.
Oh,
That's
thanks.
amazing. That is amazing.
I love that song. I love the Coltrane version with Johnny Hartman.
That's one of my favorite records of all time, the Coltrane Johnny Hartman record.
I played that with Phil Lesh. I did 2 different Valentine's Day shows with Phil and friends. And he proposed, he said, well, what song do you want to do? And I said, well, how about My One and Only Love? And I said, okay. And he said, okay, you're singing. And I'd never sung that song before. I actually called George Benson for advice. I did okay. It didn't suck, you know, I'll put it that way. But yeah, I love that song so much. And wow, you know, Phil, what a gem too. It's a whole other subject, but wow.
Stanley, when you did your Stairway to Heaven, you did that back in probably 88 or so on one of your early records. Was that just something that you used to play all the time? Like did you not learn Stairway to Heaven the normal way that people do and you just learned it with both hands?
I don't think I ever learned it the exactly normal way. I think I always kind of did things my own way because that's what I grew up on. So like my concept of jazz musicians playing standards is that they would take a song and jazz it up. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, Art Tatum playing, he took advantage of me or whatever. He had his own way of playing it. And when I started going out into the mainstream jazz world, I was a little bit surprised because I started to take a lot of flack from some of the traditionalists in the jazz world, because their whole thing was like, well, how can you call yourself a jazz musician if you're playing all these pop tunes? Like, I'd play tunes like Sunny, Stairway to Heaven, Eleanor, Rigby, and in their mind, those are pop tunes. And I remember I was, how sometimes you think about things in a dream, and in the twilight of the morning, I was like, damn it, these aren't some silly pop tunes. These are standards. These are my generation's standards.
They are standards.
And so I ended up doing this album called Standards Volume 1. And it was kind of dedicated to that. Nowadays it's not a big deal.
No.
All these people, Corey Henry and all these people, they're stepping through the path that people like me, and I would even argue George Benson to a degree, macheted through.
Sure.
And now the way it is open.
Yeah.
It's silly, but that's a whole other subject with the aesthetics of music. And I think that there's been a bit of a crisis in that area, because I think that our concept, again, it's another area where I think that our mode of thinking is overly simplistic and it doesn't match the reality. Like this simplified model that you have this continuum between art and commercialism. And so, you got to make a choice. Which way are you going, and so, like, if you put let's say you put some funk on your record, so you went commercial,
Right.
So that means that's not an artistic record, that whole concept, that flatland dichotomy of commercial versus art. Well, there's so much more to life. There's education, there's spirituality, there's so much, and also even just like some of the nuances. There's a lot of people who are considered artistic musicians, and the only thing that they really do is really weird, complicated, fast stuff, which is great. I mean, I love that. I was brought up on that. But that's not the only way to be artistic, What about some of the nuances of melody and expression and phrasing and dynamics and all that kind of stuff? Like when I'm practicing, I really try to work with that. So like, for example, I could go like, okay, this is kind of a basic sort of a mezzo forte. I can go to forte. I can go to mezzo piano. I can go to double piano. I can go to triple piano. Double forte. That was so loud, I think I distorted my unit here. So there's different levels, right? I'm not going to attempt triple forte here.
Stanley, if you're going to play something, if you're going to play something with a bass line, or tempo thing with a walking bass line, and then soloing with these two different things going on, how do you even think like that?
It comes down to structure, like musical structure.
Yeah.
So there's different ways to think about things, and when you have some flexibility with that, then you can find a way of thinking about it that simplifies it, Like, remember before I was talking about the whole concept of purity.
Yeah.
And so in the area of the sort of the cognitive intellect, when we simplify things, we're creating sort of purity on the cognitive level, right? And so, for example, let's say I have two rhythms that I want to play at the same time. So say one rhythm is going to be, and the other one is, so it's going to be, right? And so I'm thinking of it like, it's real easy. First you hit both, then you hit this one, then you hit this one. It's just some combination. Either you hit both, or you hit the low one, or you hit the high one. So I'm thinking of it on one axis in order to just play it. So I'm thinking of it as one thing, right? But then once I start playing it, then I can focus on one of one of those streams, again, texture, one stream of the texture versus another one. And now I can start to split my brain. So the point is that if you start together and then you gradually split, but if you mess yourself up, then you go back, a retreat to safety, right? And so think of things or approach things in a simple way. Like when I did the thing where I was going like, I'm just starting simple, I'm just doing something real simple, and then gradually But normally I wouldn't start out, if I'm practicing, I wouldn't start out like that. I would start out real simple and do that for a really long time. The other thing is I would slow things down. Back in the days, back in the 70s, I got a hold of this cassette recorder that had a half speed mode, which was so cool. Because what I would do is I would tune my strings way down, and then I would play a song at half tempo. I didn't tune them down an octave, but I tuned them down pretty far, right?
Okay.
And then I'd play at half tempo, and I discipline myself. Usually I need a metronome, and I play everything at half tempo. So, something like that, maybe even slower than that. And then I would go back and speed it up, and I would listen. And so now when I'm listening back, the song is back to the regular tempo.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's the product of a mind that could think twice as fast as my brain. Like if I could double my brain speed, what kind of stuff could I come up with just in an improvisation, for example? Well, I can find out right now. It's like a trick, but it actually worked. So I'd make these recordings, and I'd sit there and I'd listen to all these products of my double speed brain. But that's me. I came up with that, right? And I go back and I listen. I'd be brushing my teeth, getting ready for school, and I'd be listening to these super, Stanley on steroids, double brain recordings. And like they say, we're a product of our musical environment, right? So I'd create my musical environment, and I'd bring myself up in that environment. And next thing you know, I'm playing that kind of stuff. I'm coming up with it in real time.
Because even though you played it slowly, when you hear it back, that's still you playing it, and you can imagine yourself doing it.
Right. So I can get myself into the skin of that person. There's this whole thing, what do they call it? In neurolinguistic programming, it's it's been a while since I thought about this, but there's a process where you find somebody who can do something that you'd like to be able to do. And you imagine them doing it or watch them do it. And then you imagine yourself doing it. I have to go back and review what the actual steps are. But basically that's the concept, is learning from someone else. But if that someone else actually is you, it's actually easier to do. Then the other thing is this idea of fluency. Like, okay, so I can come up with a really interesting idea, but then I need a little bit of time to think of another interesting idea. So I'm playing along and I'm playing all this boring stuff. And then I come up with an interesting idea. And I rigged a foot switch to my recorder. So as soon as I came up with one little interesting thing, I'd hit the switch and I'd record. And it's important to use the foot switch because you don't want to even take your hand, even just reaching out to hit record, it changes your whole mode.
Sure.
And if it's something that's on the frontier, what you can barely even play, and then I come back to the guitar, maybe I can't play it again.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I'm sitting here, I just played it. That's pretty cool. Hit the switch and play it again. And then I would make all these recordings where I'd have all these little snippets of things. And then I go back and I listen back to the recording. Next thing you know, you've got like half an hour of you playing like some of your best ideas. And it's really important to actually listen to it. It's not good enough if it's just theoretical, you know. Like when I was on the Jimmy Fallon show and they played with the Roots, they did a really great thing because when we were in rehearsal, every song that we did, they recorded. So then when we were actually doing the show, right before each song, before each cue, they'd play back in your headphones the recording from the rehearsal. So
Just a little bit of it, right?
Just a little bit of it. And you
Yeah.
say, oh yeah, right. Okay,
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
it. And so then you play it because you actually hear the whole thing. So a lot of what my learning method is about is creating that total experience so that you can just like lock back into it. You can just recall it. So like if you're having a great moment, take a mental snapshot of it. You know, just pretend your brain is a camera and just like click, you know, and remember this moment. And then you can go back and play it back. It's like, think about it like this. Okay, everything that happens in our life is somehow recorded in there, right? And things that have a powerful recording tend to be really memorable. Mm-hmm. So like phobias, for example. I read somewhere that most phobias came from a single event. So like, for example, I know someone who's afraid of elevators. And why? Because one time he got stuck in an elevator. Mm-hmm. And that's all it took. So it's like a program. He's got this program that runs. And he's like, I can't get out of this program. I'm not going to get in that elevator. Well, okay, if our mind, body, spirit, our bionic robot or whatever is that powerful, then why not create some really powerful positive experience that's equally imprinting? And then from now on, because of that one experience, I can play giant steps or whatever, you know. So that's basically the concept of my learning method, is to create these integral, all-encompassing experiences that are so powerful. But you have to do it right. You have to get into it in the right way, and then you set it up. Sometimes it takes a while to set it up, and then boom, you have the experience, and then you're done.
Stanley, if people want to get more into your concept, where do they go? They go to your website, stanleyjordan.com.
So the educational stuff is at Integral Arts Academy. Mm-hmm. So that's like a sub-site within stanleyjordan.com. Mm-hmm. And it's under development. But part of what I'm trying to do is to gather a lot of these emergent paradigms from a lot of different disciplines and put them together in a comprehensive, in sort of integral way. And my focus is...
It's like your unified theory, right, of music.
Yeah. And it goes beyond music, but the music department, that's the main thing. And that's the only thing that I can claim any expertise. And even there, I'm afraid people might be on to me, you know, but yeah, that's my main thing is the music. I mean, you know, I say that in jest, but the truth is nobody knows it all. We're all ultimately humble if we realize how big the thing is, you know. But I've got these other subjects, and I've got just enough to suggest, see, there's some other stuff there, and I would love to collaborate with people and fill all that in. But the part that I'm really focused on is the music stuff. And one of the things that I do also periodically is I'll do courses where it's using teleconferencing, like with Zoom or whatever. We do live sessions and that kind of thing. So I'll have a course. They may have 6 sessions, or I'll post like office hours or whatever. So there's different levels. Like there's a lot of stuff that you can see for free. So like, for example, the stuff where, I didn't even mention this before, but I mentioned where I've got the 1,300 or so chord types, and each one has a main page. The very first link on each one of those pages takes you to guitar voicings in P4 for that chord type.
P4 meaning perfect fourths.
Perfect fourth tuning.
Yeah.
And so you can go to voice guitar chord voicings for that chord type, and the total number of pages of guitar chords is about 570,000. but I try to organize it in a way where you can go to the one you want. If you know the system, then you can go to exactly the one that you want. And so what I'm trying to do is explain this so that people can grasp it easily. I'm working on a book. It's almost complete, and it's about the Jordan chromatic system. And if you read the book, then the book will explain how to use the website, for example. So I'm trying to make it easy, but the thing of it is, too, I'm approaching a subject that by nature is a complex subject, but I'm trying to simplify it. So when you look at it, it might look complex at first when you first see the notation and the terms and all that. But when you actually grasp what it's referring to, you realize this is actually simple in terms of what it's accessing.
Can I ask you to play one more song, Stanley?
Yeah, sure. How about Eleanor Rigby?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Beautiful. Stanley, thank you
thank
so
you.
much. It was such a pleasure to hear you play.
Thank you. It's so great to talk with you.
Awesome.
And I appreciate what you're doing so much. You know, the education system is not what it needs to be. And declines in education are also correlated with declines in empires. So we need to be careful about that. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Very welcome.
Mm-hmm.